Hi there, I'm Abby at Abby's Den, and I'm going to show you a couple of projects you can do using an overlocker. Now here I'm showing you a table mat, sewing machine mat, which I've made for my overlocker because it doesn't have a trim tray, but it also holds my important tools that I need as I serge or overlock, and some clips. And in this pocket here I can hold the trims. Okay, so having removed the machine, let me show you a better picture of what we're aiming for. So we have this mat that I've made. It has many purposes. I've got kids in the bedroom upstairs, so to keep the sound down I've made a mat which acts as a noise reducer, and that works brilliantly. But I've also used a special kind of wadding on there, which is this thermal wadding, and you can see it's got foil on the top here. You can buy some that has the foil actually sandwiched inside, so you can't see it, you know it's there. It makes that crinkle sound. So that's been used inside there. So what happens now is I can just gently lift my machine off the mat, and it doubles up as a small ironing table. So what do? I'm going to put on the measurements onto the picture there, so you should be able to see it. So when I lay out my fabric, I have got at the bottom my canvas, which is a heavy duty calico. I've got my top fabric, and because it's Halloween today I've gone for black cats on buildings. I've got the fold down bit there, and I've got the piece for my pockets, and of course the wadding. Now that wadding, let's move the pockets away, and I'm going to show you how we do this first. So the wadding, if you buy the one that has the foil on the top, you'll need the foil upwards, so that goes against the iron. So let me show you what we need to do. So we've got our 3 pieces of fabric, our main fabric, our calico and our wadding, and I'm going to serge these 3 edges and leave this edge, which is closest to me, unserged. So the easiest thing to do is to peg. Now the thing with wadding is, I'll tell you very quickly as I put a couple of clips on, the thing with wadding is the fabric starts to creep. So because it's so padded, you'll find it all starts to shift around, and by the time you get to one end, the other end of your sewing or serging, the fabric's moved and your corners don't match up. Your side, one side's longer than the other, and it's all mismatched. And when you think you can stretch and pull, and you shouldn't, because when you're finished at the end, you'll find it's all lumpy and bumpy. So there's my 3 sides clipped. I'm going to switch on machine. So I have here the Brother Lock M343D, which replaces the 1034D, and in a separate video I've shown you the differences between them, but they both have their good advantages and disadvantages, so it's a personal choice. But I like both machines, and I kept both. So switch machine on, and I'm going to show you how to serge around a corner. So we're taking off absolutely nothing or very minimal. Okay, so we're reaching the corner now. So we go over the fabric, bring the hand wheel towards you so the needles are up, lift up your presser foot and position your fabric back into the corner. Put the presser foot down and carry on serging. So let's do that again. So we're back to the corner, so we're going to serge off the fabric, just a tiny little bit over, hand wheel towards you, and it's very important you do it towards you. Lift up the presser foot, unhook the fabric off the little hooks that you'll see underneath. Put your presser foot down and serge. Now I've set the machine to the factory settings. I've left it there, and let me show you one of the corners. Now I've gone a bit over. When I went over the fabric, I went over too much, and you can see I've got some extra threads, but it doesn't matter. Take your time if it's a presentation piece, but because it's hidden, it doesn't matter. You can see I've done a little bit better there. And there we have it. So pair of scissors, and let's snip that away. And always chain off. I like to chain off so we're off the side of the machine. Right, so we've done the first stage. We've made the main part of the mat, and it's turned over with the right side out, and you can see inside there the foil, the shiny side upwards, so you know you've done it correctly there. The next part I want to work on is our pockets. So we'll push that away out the side. We've got our two pieces here, and you'll see it's ever so slightly longer there because I've actually not machine stitched it through yet. You should have it a little bit longer, about a centimetre, because when we serge our pockets in there, we will lose some of the width of the fabric. So the first thing I'm going to do on this is I'm going to give this top piece a hem. So let's fold it over and clip. And I'm going to show you how to blind hem this. And you might not be given a blind hem foot. So I'm just working very roughly on here, about 1 inch. But you gauge it for yourself for the size that you want. Like I said, I've done roughly 1 inch here. Okay, so when I take it to the serger, what I need to do is I'll place it under the serger this way, flip it over. So then what will happen is most of the serging will happen on this piece of fabric, and the second needle, the one on the left, will just catch that. I'll turn it over and I'll see some lines across there. So you need to make sure you do it in a matching colour. Okay, so the pegs are going to get in the way, so if you wanted to, you could actually, now you've pegged it, you could actually put some pins in there instead, because the pins will sit out of the way of the foot and they'll not cause any trouble, and it'll be easier to pull out. So whatever you prefer, I'm happy with the pegs, and I'll take them out as I get to them. So there's my first one, and let's serge. So you can see there, hopefully, that I've just caught the top fabric with the left needle, and the right needle is on the edge of the raw edge. And remove the next peg. So keep a close eye on this as you go in, take your time. And it is tricky to watch because you've got lots of threads in the way there. But as I said, take your time. Chain off, cut that away, and there we have our blind. Let's get rid of this chain. And there we have our blind stitch, okay, or blind hem. Now you can press that, and I would, and then we're going to attach it to the main body of our pockets. Okay, so we've pressed it, and we're going to attach our pockets to this part of the calico. Now we always know good sides together, so I'm going to flip it over. And again, with the calico, it doesn't matter with the right side, wrong side, they're both the same. It's a woven fabric, so there's no print on there. It's fine either way. And again, you don't have to use calico, you can use something, as long as it's cotton. If you're going to use an iron, you need to be able to get to a high temperature, so it's better to use a cotton. For obvious reasons, cottons allow high temperature. So what we're going to do here is we're going to sew these 3 sides, and I'm going to serge the edges there and there, and I'm going to leave this side because it's going to attach to the main mat. Right, back to our table, and we have now, so serge this side, the pockets down, and I've just gone away and given it a quick press. So if I flip it round now, so let me just show you closely that I've actually serged all the way to the top here on both sides, and then I've pressed it. So when I show you when I flipped it round, I'll show you what I've done. So push the corners through, use your chopstick. Now again, remember to use the flat edge of the chopstick and not the pointy edge. They're actually turners that I bought from Prim for rouleau loops, and they work really well actually. But again, it's another trick I'm going to show you on the Serger on another project. This way, all those edges. Right, poke out that corner. There we go. Okay, so you can see where I've pressed it. I've pressed that serged edge inwards. So I folded it over twice to get my thirds. And what I'm going to do is just get a marker pen. So if I grab that marker pen that I was using before and my ruler, make sure I get a nice straight line. So I'm going to use one of the lines on my ruler and mark it along the line, and that's what's great about these rulers. Now this is a brilliant chalk pen. It's again, it's from Prim. I'm a little fan of Prim. And when I draw it straight on, it doesn't look like it's there, but actually then it slowly starts appearing. And the other side is an eraser. But because it's chalk, it's unlike those marker pens that you use that wash away. If you use the iron on it, it stays in permanently. But with this, because it's chalk, it will brush away even if you do use the iron. Okay, so I've got that marked on the right side, and actually I really want to mark it on the wrong side. So let me do that again. And just on the other side. And then just grab a few pegs, fold it over. Now you might think, oh, she's doing too many steps, but I'm showing you all these steps. When I'm making it, I don't usually mark, I just a press will be fine. I'm not always bothered about pegging again. That's just bad practice, and I really want to show you, particularly those of you who are beginners, what to do. So hopefully I'm not confusing any of you, but do ask questions because I don't mind helping. All right, pegged, and we're just going to serge or overlock this edge, and we can use the overlocker without a knife or leave the knife in, doesn't matter. So let's go over to the machine. So we're back on the machine, and this is a wonderful little machine actually, and I'll show you how to disengage the knife. So we just pull back the spring panel, and here you can see, if I move my bits and bobs away, you can see inside the knife. If I pull on this handle, pull the knife away, and I can disengage the knife that way. Now I'm not bothered about having the knife there because I tend to forget to put it back, so I'm going to leave the knife engaged. And it doesn't matter if I trim away some of the fabric. It's one of those projects, it's not a problem. So I'm going to keep my fabric close to the knife, and I'm just going to serge. Now I'm just going to warn you, it's going to sound clunky as it goes over the thick fabric here where I've got my hem, because there's quite a few layers there. If you work it out, there's probably 2, 4, 5, 6 layers there, and we're just going to go over that. And cut that away, and let me just show you what happens. Oops, we've got our pockets there, and we'll do the same here. Lost one of my pegs. Minimal cutting there, so try and keep that to an absolute minimum, because you do not want to make this smaller than the width of your mat. Okay, so cut away the tail threads, and there we have our pockets. Right, now I've brought you back to the table because I want to show you a couple of things. Again, it's aimed at the beginners more than you experts out there. But what it is I explained to you earlier about wadding creeping, and it tends to do that. So when you sew, you might find, sorry, moving it around too much, you might find that your fabric doesn't match anymore, and that's not a fault of yours. It's just one of those things, it just does happen. It's quite a thick fabric. Okay, so what you could do, if you do find that it's too much out, and this is only a tiny bit out, so normally I just leave it and let the overlocker deal with it, then what you do is put your pockets on, match them up. Now a couple of things can happen here as well, is if your measurements were slightly out and you find that the pockets are maybe coming out too short on the edges, you could flip this back, the main mat, flip it back round and serge one of the edges a bit so that the whole mat's smaller to match your pockets. Okay, and another trick you can do to make sure everything's lined up neatly, make sure your mat's flat. You could just lay it all on top of each other and just whiz the rotary cutter through that and give it a good cut. Now some of you might not use rotary cutters and these self-healing mats. You need to use the self-healing mats, these mats, with your rotary cutter, because that protects your blade. If you don't use, do use your scissors carefully. Okay, so now I know all that's matching up, I'm just going to slip my pins or my pegs underneath there. Now I have got a slight difference here in my length, but that's not a worry to me because it's so marginal. It doesn't matter. If you're picky and it does worry you, then, you know, like I said, just fold it back over and serge that in a little bit. Doesn't worry me. And I've got very springy pegs. So let's go back to the machine again. And this is your final step now. So we're going to just take the pegs off, lift your presser foot. Now you don't need to use your arm lever. You can just use a spring action on the foot to just lift it up. But be careful and watch your finger or your thumb on the knife. And let's go for it. Now I'm holding it at the back, I'm not pulling. Do not pull. It's a lot of fabric I'm serging at the moment. And I'm going to just make sure this seam goes inwards like that one did. Doesn't matter if it doesn't, I just think it looks tidier. Chain off, and I will show you how to tie these ends on another video, but for our beginners we just cut it off. It's fine, not a problem. It's overlocked, it's not going to come undone, and that's it, done. There's your mat. So here's the mats we finished earlier in this project, all serged, overlocked and beautifully finished, nice and neat and ready to gift this Christmas.